Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. Today we're going to talk about the brand new premium tier 6 British light cruiser, Tiger 59. And I can summarize my thoughts on this ship quite succinctly. It is very much an oversized Friesland. Now, I've seen people compare it to the Minotaur and say it's more like a baby Minotaur, but that isn't quite right. Although the guns are very much like the Minotaur's guns, only there are a lot less of them. There are only 4 of them in total. They're 152 millimeters in size, just like the Minotaur. And just like the Minotaur, they only shoot armor piercing. But it seems to be very good armor piercing. I think this AP is a little bit spicier than the AP on, say, the tech tree counterpart of this ship, which would be the Fiji. The guns reload in 3.2 seconds at base also, which means they're very rapid firing. So this is why I kind of say it's like the Friesland, but a supersized Friesland. Now granted, these guns only shoot AP, unlike the Friesland, but quite like the Friesland, the guns are the only source of damage dealing available to this ship. It does not have torpedoes. It's only got these 4 152mm guns that fire every 3.2 seconds and only shoot armor piercing. So you would have to think that if this is all the ship can rely on to get damage, then these guns better be really, really good. And to some extent, the guns are really, really good. They do fire quickly. As I've said, the 3.2 second reload time is faster than any other cruiser at this tier, I do believe, with maybe the exception of the Atlanta and the Flint, but I think it's actually pretty comparable to those. So they're fast firing. They also seem to be pretty accurate for the most part. Sometimes I see at long ranges the dispersion spreading out, but sometimes it's very, very pinpoint accurate, so you can fine-tune your aiming to hit parts of ships that the small armor-piercing shells will actually penetrate, like the upper belt armor, the superstructure, that kind of thing. So accurate, fast firing. But again, only AP, so that means these shells sometimes can ricochet, and they cannot start fires. And since you don't have torpedoes, you can't start floods either, or you can't cause floods. So there is no damage over time. All the damage you're going to do with this ship is pure armor-piercing penetration damage. And frankly, I don't think this ship is a spectacularly good damage dealer. These guns do fire quickly, they are accurate, and the AP seems to be just about as spicy as Minotaur AP at the Legendary tier, which is not something, I think, that can be said of the Fiji. Nevertheless, the very low amount of guns really, I think, hampers this cruiser's ability to deal damage. So it's not a cruiser that I think you're going to be taking out there and getting ridiculously high damage games all the time. But what this cruiser does have to make up for its sort of mediocre damage output, I would say, is the utility provided from its consumables, and you can see that in action here. I'm sitting right in the middle of a capture circle inside of my smoke screen. I think I assisted my destroyer teammate in taking this capture circle as well, and you'll note that I also have 3 charges of the radar consumable. So this smoke radar combo is pretty darn good. It's something this ship shares with the Belfast, and the smoke radar combo synergizes pretty well with the excellent concealment on this ship. I've got it down to, I think, 9.8, or is it 9.4 kilometers? In either case, it's very, very low. I've got the concealment module on the ship, and I've also got Gunichi Mikawa inspiring the commander. And so the concealment is excellent. You'll probably outspot most other cruisers at this tier, and it allows you to push in much closer before you deploy your smoke screen, and thus you can get into capture circles and things like this. And of course, as I said a little bit earlier, the AP is effective. You can see it ripping through the citadel of the Pensacola quite easily at fairly close range, but it can also do this against lightly armored targets at long ranges too, surprisingly long ranges, which is why I say the guns are good. But again, even with good guns, I think for the most part, you're going to want to utilize this cruiser for its utility. Case in point, that Udaloy is still hiding inside of that capture circle over there, inside of his smoke screen, but we reveal him with our radar, and he is forced to move away a little bit, taking some damage in the process. And every point of damage you can inflict to a destroyer is going to help your team out in the long run, because most destroyers are never going to be able to get those hit points back once they are removed. And I do not believe the Udaloy is one of the destroyers which can, because I don't think it comes with Repair Party. In any case, that utility, that is the most useful thing about this ship, I think. Other than that, I don't think it's an especially great ship to play if dealing damage is what you want to do, but it can be a good ship situationally for winning games. Another thing to be said about this ship, and something I am doing a frankly deplorable job of doing in this game, is map awareness. You really need to keep an eye on the map at all times, because this ship, like the other British light cruisers in this game, has pretty much no armor to speak of, meaning it's quite vulnerable to taking a crap ton of damage at the slightest shell hit. It can probably be dev-struck by battleships or even other cruisers very easily, because like the rest of the British light cruisers, it has an exposed citadel with, I think, enough armor to arm the shells of a lot of ships that are going to hit it. So it is very dangerous to be shot at in this thing. Then again, it does have some consumables to mitigate that. It's got the Repair Party, and the Repair Party is massively improved. It can heal a lot of damage. I think it can probably heal more Citadel damage too than your typical Repair Party consumable. In fact, we are going to get damaged a lot more severely as this game goes on, and if I remember correctly, we're actually going to end this game with a Dreadnought medal, thanks to all the damage we end up taking and all the healing we end up doing to compensate for that damage. And it's a rare enough thing, I think, to earn a Dreadnought medal in a cruiser. Nevertheless, I can't really say that I'm a huge fan of this ship. I don't actively dislike it. I just think it's more of a utilitarian ship, and it's a little bit handicapped on its damage-dealing abilities. Of course, there's 3 citadels on that New Orleans, so that is quite nice. Again, the guns are very good. Maybe I am just not a good enough cruiser player to get the absolute most out of this ship, but I find the damage output mediocre. I do find there's a nasty hit, by the way, from that Iowa. Good shot by him. I think he's been aiming at me this whole game. But you can see just how many hit points we're able to regain even after taking that huge hit from the Iowa. Anyway, maybe I'm just not a good enough cruiser player to get the most out of this ship. I'm thinking it has a pretty high skill floor or skill ceiling. I'm not sure exactly what the term is, but it's not very potent on paper or in practice at dealing damage. It is very good with its consumables. Did I mention the statistics on the radar? I don't think I did. It only has an 8.5 kilometer range, so it's a little bit shorter than some other radars at this tier. In fact, the Tier 6 Pan-European destroyer Xarkun has a radar which outranges this radar at 9 kilometers, although it does last for a fairly long time, like most of the British radars. I think around 30 seconds, maybe a little bit less than that. So it's a pretty potent radar, provided you get close enough, and you absolutely have the tools to get close enough with the excellent concealment on this cruiser, along with the smoke screen. Doesn't have sonar though, so you do want to be careful inside of your smoke screens, because as we all know from watching the mighty jingles. Smokescreens are torpedo magnets, and since you have no sonar, you're really not going to have advanced warning of those torpedoes unless they're spotted for you by one of your teammates, or say by some planes flying overhead. Speaking of planes, this aircraft carrier has been attempting to harass me for a good long time now. We've shot down 14 of his planes, and that leads me to think that the anti-aircraft on this ship is probably fairly effective. As far as the cruisers go, oftentimes cruisers can be very, very good AA platforms. I don't think this thing is going to be winning any awards for it, but it'll shoot down the planes for you, and if you can hide inside the smoke screen so the CV can't see you, but you still have vision on the planes and your AA guns continue to shoot, then that's an ideal scenario. This Iowa really has it out for me, by the way. You can see I'm inside of this cap attempting to take it. I don't think we're in huge danger of losing this game, but this CV is a Parseval. There's a chance that his armor-piercing bombs could citadel me to death, so I'm going to smoke up here, prevent him from striking me, just shoot down his planes if he puts any over the smoke screen, because as you can see, they're still spotted, and there they go, falling into the water. And hopefully I'll be able to secure this cap solo to give myself a nice solo cap ribbon to go along with my assist cap. And by the way, I think because of the smoke screen, because of the radar threat, and because of the excellent concealment on this ship, it can sort of fulfill the role of a destroyer, which I guess leads me back to my original description of this ship, which is as a supersized Friesland. Now, you might like the Friesland. You might think it's quite fun to play. You might think it's a fairly good gunboat DD, right? But supersized, think of that word. If it has positive connotations in your mind with respect to this game, you may want to rethink that, because supersized isn't often a good thing in the world of warships, you see. Supersized in this case means this is a cruiser and not, in fact, a destroyer, so it does have a citadel and is thus more vulnerable. But in a sense, it is a similar gun platform to the Friesland in the sense that the guns it carries on its platform are so few and so rapid firing. Nevertheless, if you want to play a ship like this, I think the Friesland is probably a better choice. I think it's more fun, it can probably deal more damage, and it's probably a little bit more useful for winning games in the sense that it is a destroyer, so it's better concealed and better suited to taking capture circles and playing the objectives than this is. Then again, the Friesland doesn't have radar, whereas this thing does, and that can really make it difficult for enemy destroyers to play the objective if you and your Tiger 59 are there to counter them. Let's see what we can do against this August von Parseval out here. He is currently the last ship left alive, and given his harassment of me earlier in the game, well, I would like a little bit of vengeance on him. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to get it too consistently, but we are going to be able to farm a little bit of damage off of this guy before the game ends. And you'll notice as this game ends that it is a pretty mediocre damage total, but the XP is quite high, I believe at 2700 base XP. So again, I remind those viewers out there who love to see those big damage games on YouTube that this game isn't all about big damage, and big damage numbers aren't necessarily what wins games. If you have a lot of utility in the form of your consumables, like this cruiser does, you can utilize those to win games by playing the objectives more effectively than ships with less utility in their consumables can. So if you're thinking about buying this ship, just know that you're probably not going to reliably get high, huge damage gains all the time, and your effectiveness in terms of your consumable utility can be quite situational. There may be games in which you just can't push in and get closer to the enemy because you've got a CV spotting you, or a destroyer is in a good position to spot you without you being able to radar them, things like that. Basically, it is a pretty niche ship in my mind. It's not going to be winning any awards in terms of best premium out there, and I don't think I particularly care for it, but I don't actively dislike it. I'm just pretty apathetic toward it. Let me know what you think in the comments, give the video a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.